Hello, I'm Ted Morrissey. I just wanted to make a brief kind of welcoming video for the Lindenwood University MFA in Writing course, Revisionist Fiction Shakespeare Edition. I call it the Shakespeare Edition because I do teach another course for Lindenwood on revisionist fiction, but we look at a variety of texts. And in this one, obviously, we focus specifically on Shakespeare. And one of the issues we're going to be kind of dealing with and talking about throughout the session is what revisionist fiction means, and whether it's the same as fan fiction. And so I'll be getting some of your thoughts on that, and obviously you'll be hearing some of mine as time goes on. But essentially, we're talking about writers being inspired by a classic or at least well-known text, and then creating an original narrative. Probably, I guess it could be a poem or any number of things, but some kind of an original story inspired by the classic or well-known tale, taking another character taking a character from the text, taking the setting, taking whatever from it, and writing their own original story based on it. And this particular course was inspired by the fact that a press, the Hogarth Shakespeare Press, has for a few years now has been commissioning various contemporary authors to write a new novel based on a Shakespeare play. And there are several of them floating around out there now. We're going to focus on three of them. And specifically, we're going to be looking at Othello, first of all. So we'll be reading Othello, and then we'll be reading the Tracy Chevalier novel New Boy, which was inspired by Othello. Then we will be looking at The Tempest. And following that, we will take a look at Hag's Seed by Margaret Atwood, who, of course, is one of the hottest writers on the planet these days, especially for her handmaid tale books, which have now been made into The Handmaid's Tale, I guess that's the right title, have been made into a series on Hulu, etc. But Margaret Atwood, Hag's Seed. And then we'll be finishing with one of the stranger Shakespeare plays, The Winter's Tale, and the novel based on that is The Gap of Time by Jeanette Winterson. Get that back a little bit. Who is one of my favorite writers. I really respect a lot what she does on the page, and so we'll kind of cap things off with that. So basically, the idea here is that we'll read a play, a Shakespeare play, in a given week. We will read it, obviously, to comprehend it as a work of literature unto itself, but also be mindful of elements in the play that could be used for inspiration for our own writing. And then we will take a look at the novel that was written by the contemporary novelist based on the play, a reworking of the play somehow or another, and talk about how they took various elements from the play and use them in their own fiction, that sort of thing. So we kind of always have sort of a dual purpose, I guess. We're obviously looking at both the Shakespeare plays and the contemporary novels as works of literature, unto themselves, as I say, and talking about them just as we would any book, any narrative. But also we're looking at them in terms of how the original inspired the latter, how we might draw from the original ourselves, and to create our own original works, and so on. So that's going to be kind of the modus operandi, if you will, for the semester. At the end of this semester, I'm going to ask you to write your own original narrative inspired by one of the Shakespeare plays that we read. And usually, students, since we're in an MFA program, they find that part particularly attractive. In terms of the kind of the mechanics of the course, if you've been through other Lindenwood courses, it's going to sound very familiar to you. I think I do things maybe a little bit different than some of my colleagues. Basically, as I said, we're going to have a reading per week, either a Shakespeare play or a contemporary novel based on that play. There'll be a discussion post that you'll have to make each week. I encourage you to try to make those by Friday of each week, because you also will need to read and respond to at least two of your classmates' posts as well. So if everyone can get in the habit of posting by Friday, then that will give us the weekend to kind of look through each other's posts and decide on which ones we want to comment on. Obviously, you are welcome to comment on more than two, and you're certainly welcome to develop an ongoing sort of thread dialogue about your posts and so forth. That would be, obviously terrific to get that kind of a exchange in the works. And then what I'll do is I will read your posts each week, and I will give you some feedback on your post and a grade out of 10 points. And then I also will post to the discussion board myself. Now, one of the things I do that may be a little bit different, I use Canvas's announcement function to try to extend our kind of contemplation discussion of the given material. And so what that means is that the following week, after you post about a play or a novel, whatever it may be, and after I have responded to your post and also hopped on the discussion board myself, I'll also post an announcement which will have the subject line notes on whatever, notes on Othello, notes on New Boy, whatever it is. And I will, write a little bit about that play or that novel, maybe give you some other folks' perspectives on it, maybe share a video that has to do with it for some reason or another. And then in those notes on announcements, I'll also ask you to respond to a specific question or a specific set of questions at the end of the announcement. These are not graded. They are just to try to continue the discourse beyond, the discussion board posts and so forth. I definitely encourage you to participate in them. And if you, for some reason, don't do that, maybe you forget or whatever, I'll send you a friendly little reminder to try to get you on board there with responding to these announcements. But I have found that a lot of students actually enjoy these announcements and then the exchanges that come out of them, even more so than the discussion board posts. They tend to be a little bit freer form. And again, we can get into some really interesting issues after we've read the material. Now that everyone has kind of absorbed it, had time to think about it, and looked at each other's, discussion board posts about it, and so on. So that may be a little bit different, as I say, from what other instructors do in terms of the announcements. Now, sometimes I'll also be posting announcements that are just announcements, just to relay information to you. All right. If you have questions for me, the best thing to do is to email me that question. Oftentimes I find that if a student has a question, that it's a good one, and that the answer to it is probably things that others in the class might need to know too. And so I'll oftentimes, in addition to responding to your email, if it seems relevant, and it often is, I will also write an announcement to the whole class, not naming you or quoting you or anything like that, but just because you will have reminded me of something or called my attention to something that probably everyone in the class could benefit from being in on. So I'll turn that into an announcement. So certainly don't be shy about having questions or making observations or suggestions about the course. As time goes by, I'm certainly open to all of that kind of thing. All right. So I'm looking forward to working with you this session. I've been teaching in the Lindenwood MFA program since 2016. Very much enjoy it. Very much enjoy this course especially, and I'm sure that we will both get a lot out of it. All right. So I'll be seeing you down the digital road.